Using your 80-20 analysis that we were just talking about earlier, is there some high-risk areas that most CIOs and CISOs, that if they can check the boxes on multi-factor authentication, that you think are sort of fall into that highest risk category area where you sort of got to peel back the onion a bit?
Yeah, so I think any of them that allow somebody to be man in the middle, so that would be like the LinkedIn example. If someone can log in to a session, but be man in middle and not really be, so what happens when you're in a man in middle attack? It's called network session hijacking. Is the attacker convinces you to come into a proxy site that is bringing all the information from your intended destination and brings it to the victim, and everything the victim says and does is proxied through to the destination web server. They don't know there's a man in the middle involved. Sure. So when a solution has that pre-registration where I only work with this particular website, that stops proxies man in the middle. So there's a lot of solutions that do that. I like solutions that do one-time based passwords if it's done well. Okay. That's the problem, is that every solution you give me, there's good implementations, bad implementations. FIDO. If I see FIDO, I like it. Yeah. But there's FIDO one-factor solutions where you just plug it into the computer. Well, that means if you lose your USB key and somebody else plugs it into their computer, they're you.
Right, right.
And they're like, oh, it's two-factor. You have to push a button. I'm like, well, that ain't much of a security bar. So that it's just, or biometrics. I hate biometrics by themselves. Biometrics can be, number one, stolen and reused. And what are you going to do? Change your retina or your fingerprint? Right. But they're never as accurate as they claim, ever, ever, ever. And if you allow biometrics to be used to remotely log in like we are in these COVID days, well, you're just being a fool because anybody can fake that fingerprint. Our biometrics, we can't change your fingerprint. So bad guy steals our fingerprints. Then remotely, you're insane if you allow biometrics, because all the biometric readers are horrible. Like your fingerprint is possibly unique in the world. We don't know that for sure. We've not taken everybody's fingerprint. It's unique in the world. But the way that fingerprint is read is maybe different from other people, maybe different from 15,000 people's fingerprints. It's because the scanners have to intentionally, not really work that well. Like your cell phone. If you went to, I have my cell phone, I opened it up with a fingerprint. When I can't open it right away using my fingerprint, I'm kind of mad. And if it didn't let me in, I would stop using that method or stop using that cell phone. But I'm amazed sometimes how little of my finger I get on that scanner before it logs me in. So they literally intentionally detune it. And every time you detune the scanner or the reader, the biometric, and they're like, oh, your retina is 1 in 2 trillion. Nobody can ever have that. It's just not true. It could be. They don't measure it that way because your fingerprints get little micro abrasions and cuts in the valleys. So they have to intentionally detune them. So I like biometrics if you use it with some other factor, but just doing biometrics. And let me say, like fingerprints, I have spent a life hacking fingerprint scanners. And sometimes it's as easy as going up to the fingerprint reader, if they have the flat glass, and blowing cupped air. And actually the moisture from my air activates the oils and logs me in as that person.
No way.
I've done that on building entry doors all my life. I don't need special fingerprint spray, and I don't have to create a Play-Doh finger. Hot air. There's something wrong with the system when my hot air activates your fingerprint oils and I'm in the system.